Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I wanted to remind everybody my sponsor Link2 has decreased for the weekend their minimum investment to $5,000. Normally it's $10,000 per investment, and they've got some Ripple up there and some PolySign and some Link2 and some other things, so you might want to check that out. The link will be in the top of the description. Check this out. AMM Crypto did a Ripple price prediction. I think they meant XRP. XRP price prediction for 2025 to 2023. I'm going to take you down to the bottom here. And here's what these geniuses are saying. Apparently they used a company called Finder, and they're saying conservatively for XRP by 2030, they believe it could hit $4.98 by 2030. I believe it could do that in the blink of an eye once people, not necessarily, and by the way, I don't necessarily think that XRP is going to skyrocket the second that that this SEC lawsuit is over. I think that there could be a period of time where people digest what it really means and where the market has a delayed reaction. I think that could very well happen. There could even be a negative reaction, and then everybody realizes that there's so many nuances to the decision or the settlement that that at first it goes down and then it goes up, or vice versa. I mean, it could happen. But anyway, I think this number, personally, I believe that number is a joke. Look, it says, according to data published on NASDAQ's website, the average projection for 2030 is around $18.39. And then we have, which I also think that should be ridiculous, now, the 2025, Changley, that was created, can't remember his name, but he's a total Bitcoin maxi. Why would they even use that for an XRP price prediction? It's provided a range of between $1.47 and $1.76 max for XRP by 2025. That's a joke too, in my opinion. But I mean, when your sources are Bitcoin maxis, what do you really expect? Now, the official cool guy, it looks like he was up. I think BitBoy is doing like a book tour. He came out with a book, and the official cool guy of the Digital Asset Investor channel apparently dropped by his book signing and got a photo with him. So that's pretty cool. Now listen to this. I'm going to hit the refresh button, and then we'll listen to this bad boy.
President Biden wrote an executive order that says anyone with more than $100,000 in the bank or in any deposit box, any amount in any deposit box, if the bank should get into trouble, that they can take that money. Well, in September, when things started to go badly for the banking world, they lowered that to $50,000. So if you got more than $50,000 in any one account in any bank, they can take it.
Now, folks, I've covered bail-ins. I've shown you that they will do bail-ins in the United States. And I've shown you the FDIC clip where Gary Cohen says we don't need to let the public know about that, even though we here in this room don't necessarily have a lot of faith in the banking system. That doesn't mean we want to let them know it. But what I didn't know, so he's talking about bail-ins here. What I didn't know, because I assumed the FDIC insurance would kick in, and I think it's $250,000 per account. But what this guy's saying is they've lowered it to $50,000. If that's the case, and you got more than $50,000 in any one account, you might want to do something about it, because these people are awful. Okay, here's an interesting video. Watch this.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm conscious. I'm looking at the stream here, and there are loads of questions coming in. So I'm going to ask you one last one from me, Ricardo, and then we're going to go to the stream's questions. So quick fire one. Over the next few years, what do you think like the top three sort of transformational use cases for blockchain will be?
Ooh, okay. Well, it'll have to be in capital markets, payments, and identity. So, let me just give you a quick view of what that means. So in capital markets, the continued digitization of all assets and asset classes, I think, is really exciting. Mm-hmm. So, the digitization of property and cars and what have you, and then the ability to trade those things in primary, secondary, and even tertiary marketplaces. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be cool. Money. So the movement of money moving from lumpy to liquid. So, today money is very lumpy, right? Mm. You get paid every month or every couple of weeks. Why don't you get paid every second? Right. And we move money cross-border, but we don't send emails cross-border. Of course, governance and legislation is different on money versus data, but still, I think that certainly will see a shift of money being more fluid. And then on identity, if we consider what's happening with Web3, the promise of bring your identity to the internet and the identity is yours, sovereign identity is something that I think we still need to solve. We've been talking about it for a very long time, but hopefully now is the time to get it right.
All right, interesting stuff. Now this, I'm just going to play you the first part. This is Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and he's on with these BIS people.
Potential sources of risk. So with this question, and well, of course, this provides plenty.
And keep in mind, this guy wants CBDCs to be able to monitor you and control you. And it's refreshing because I think the gist of what the Fed chair says here is that we've got to have it where it's not like that in the U.S.
Room to elaborate. Let me start with you, Jay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Augustine. Thanks for bringing us together, and hello to my colleagues. It's nice to see everyone. So, as you pointed out, there is no question that we are in a time of rapid technological change in the financial sector, especially in payments. And as is often the case at times like this, there's a mixture of innovations that will have lasting and perhaps salutary effects, and those that will turn out to be mostly hype. And it's never possible in real time to be sure which is which. More fundamentally, innovation is the key to driving productivity in the economy, and the Fed has long supported responsible innovation. Novel technologies like distributed ledger and decentralized finance have the potential to increase the efficiency of the payment system and encourage a more competitive financial landscape. So the direction of travel is encouraging, and the future we can now imagine is one featuring you.
All right, that's all a bunch of bull. This is the gist of what matters. A dollar CBDC would need to ensure users' privacy. That is totally different from what that Augustin Karstens from the BIS want. He wants it as a surveillance tool like China. But Tom Emmer recently was pushing to make sure that we don't go the BIS route in terms of the surveillance nature of CBDC, and I think that's important. Now, I've shown you a lot of times this video, and I've talked about it, where we know that Homeland Security knows who the 4 satoshis are. But I wanted to remind people, because you may not remember this video, at the same conference where the Homeland Security lady gets on stage and says that they do know, I wanted to make sure you understood that we also know that the SEC had people at that conference too. So they were in the audience, which means that the SEC also knows who the 4 satoshis are.
But in all seriousness, I think this was the best demonstration that I could come up with is how cryptocurrency works. This is not going to be a technical explanation. Maybe the guy from SEC, Martin, right? No? You don't want to do a technical explanation of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or the blockchain? I do want to say that both of these folks are government employees, SEC and Homeland Security, so anything that I say certainly does not reflect upon them or their agencies, because I want them to keep their jobs and, have wonderful careers.
Okay, so, and Wheezy apparently found out who the 2 SEC people were. Not only was Martin Zerwitz, but there was Jane Norberg from the Office of Whistleblower at the SEC. She left in April 2021, 4 months after the lawsuit versus Ripple was filed. So think about what you have here, folks. You got an SEC that knows who the 4 satoshis are, and they're walking around and pretending like Bitcoin has no common enterprise because we don't know who it is. It's a huge, this scandal, ETHgate's a huge scandal. The Bitcoin scandal's even bigger than that because they know, and we have the proof, it's right there on video. So what that means is the entire policy around Bitcoin is one huge lie. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that Tom Emmer and some of these congressmen who are supposedly on our side aren't bringing this up. It's right there in your face. Now, this is from Wrath of Kahneman a while back in July 2022. Yields, liquidity pools, liquidity tokens, the XLS 30D discussion for XRPL automated market maker has enormous potential for the network. This is an attempt to understand what Ripple's David Schwartz called the secret sauce of an XRPL AMM. All right. And I happened to run across, this was on, what's the guy's name? Actually, somebody quoted it. His name, this is who put this video out. It's Zen Warrior. I met this guy when I was in Vegas one time. He's got Zen Lounge, I think is his website. He's a sologenic guy. But anyway, in this clip from his channel, they're talking about, it's a sologenic guy named Fabio, and he's talking about their conversations with Ripple.
So what's the vibe on XLS 30? Because that's going to do like so much for the DEX. We have IDO Launchpad coming. Can you give us like a roadmap of how soon you think XLS 30 will follow after IDO Launchpad?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be really important if you're able to launch, like one thing to launch your own token on XRPL, but there's no liquidity, it's very tough, right? So like once you have the IDO Launchpad plus, because even stably there's some issues, right?
Yeah.
Like there's issues with the spreads on stably right now.
No,
so like,
with stably there were some issues in general with the market, because I think there was a legal issue on Ripple's side to provide the market making, or I cannot elaborate more. But
so when are we able to do like the automatic?
Let me finish this space on a positive note, talking a little bit about the AMM. We had a call with the product team with Ripple, and they expressed their confidence in this amendment, because you know what happened with the last time they pushed XLS 20. We integrated it 4 months before it actually went live, and we don't want that to happen again, because it takes a lot of resources from our side, and then we had to kind of like rearrange a lot of stuff once the amendment was modified, right? So this time we are working with more synergy and just more proximity to the Ripple team, the product team, and we're hoping to push the AMM as soon as it goes live. So for that sense, we just literally a week ago, we pushed it as a priority on the pipeline. So it will be rolled out before the IDO Launchpad. So then when the IDO comes live, like you said, people can leverage the automatic market maker for their own new tokens, for sure.
Okay, so that is, and that was from about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, does anybody remember this when James Flynn tweeted this out? Lewis Cohen has filed a motion to appear pro-hack Vice on behalf of Paradigm Operations LLP. That was in the Ripple SEC versus Ripple case. All right. Well, I happened to bump into this clip from Lewis where Lewis Cohen is speaking. I wanted to show you that. But first I wanted to show you this because I found one of his tweets a while back too. Look at this. The evidence provides strong corroboration of the defendant's defenses in the case and undermines the SEC's claim, specifically the now acknowledged fact that the SEC itself did not restrict its employees from selling or buying XRP, notwithstanding its long-standing regulation and its employees engaging in securities transactions without pre-clearance. Indicates that the SEC had not concluded prior to at least January 2018 that sales and offers of XRP were securities transactions. So they were letting their people buy and sell XRP, folks. Then they had the gall to bring this lawsuit. Now here's Lewis Cohen right here talking about his intervention there in the lawsuit.
Discuss the embodiment theory.
So the embodiment theory stems directly from statements made by the SEC, both in the director of the Division of Corporation Finance, Bill Kingman's speech, when Howie met Gary Plastic, in 2019 that's given people a lot of agita. And then more relevantly and more directly in a court filing that the SEC made in their case against Ripple Labs. In that court filing, a group of XRP holders endeavored to intervene in the case as defendants. You guys, of course, are litigators. I had the vaguest idea that that was a thing, that you could intervene as a defendant, sort of like putting your own kidney sticker on your back. So I didn't really know that was a thing, but apparently it is a thing. And because it was a thing, the SEC was obliged to respond to that motion to intervene. When the SEC responded to that motion to intervene, they provided many good arguments as to why that was not such a good idea to allow any random person to make themselves a defendant. And they explain over the course of about 23 pages why the court should not allow that. For reasons that are not essentially clear to me, on page 24, though, they said sort of, and one more thing, and they said, you attempted interveners, you seem to misunderstand. You seem to think that we, the SEC, think that XRP tokens are securities. We do not think that, they write. Instead, and they quote Judge Pastel in Telegram, instead, we think that the token embodies the scheme pursuant to which it is sold. Is it the embodiment of the scheme? So in our paper, we, I think fairly characterize that as the embodiment theory and really note that that is a novel theory, right? That is not something, there is no footnote at the end of that statement in their brief. Normally you would expect if you make a statement like that, you cite a case and say, well, C, X, Y, Z. There is no case. We are certainly unaware of a case that would endorse the idea that some asset that is reasonably self-evidently not a security in and of itself can somehow temporarily, presumably, embody a scheme. And so we argue that it is a theoretical approach. It's the SEC that's kind of making up new ideas, not us. That is completely within their bounds. But we argue for policy reasons why it's not good.
All right. So, and then there was this today. James Flynn, the California plaintiffs have filed a brief opposition to John Deaton's motion to file an amicus brief in Zakanoff versus Ripple. This is one of the lawsuits where somebody had sued Ripple for losing like $100 or something like that. John Deaton has officially taken up residence in the California attorney's heads. And then Cowboy Crypto says the plaintiff, Bradley Sostak, is ex-McKinsey and currently works at Citadel. Kavita Gupta, who was formerly of Consensus, is also ex-McKinsey, as well as Michael Hirsch, who is now executive director at Simpson Thacher, which is Jay Clayton's firm. Now, one of the things that has bothered me, folks, is the Chris Giancarlo thing. Chris Giancarlo, when we found out that he was the guy that made the introduction of Sam Bankman-Fried to Gary Gensler while Gary Gensler sues Ripple, I don't like the feel of that. It makes me feel creepy, okay? Giancarlo is also working on the digital dollar project, and he was ex-CFTC. And remember, I think Mark Wetjen worked underneath Chris Giancarlo, or maybe him and Gary Gensler, or both, I can't remember. But worked underneath him. Mark Wetjen was the general counsel at FTX. So I'm getting some real bad vibes off Giancarlo crypto dads these days. And then I saw this. This is the chief risk officer at Consensus, which is Joseph Lubin's outfit. And I said, hey, Chris Giancarlo, do you think it's important to find out who the Ethereum disguised whales from the ICO are before getting in business with Lubin? Because Consensus is his firm.
I believe that we already have the raw materials for that regulation right now. You've got the GBBC's Global Standards Mapping Initiative. I'm part of Chris Giancarlo's Digital Dollar Project. We've got a paper coming out about the private sector risks for a CBDC.
I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that I don't like the look of this.